Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we are thrilled to be introducing you to the cast and creatives responsible for the Orion Pictures Amazon MGM Studios release, Nickel Boys. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the African members on the call today, starting with Dana Abercrombie in New York, Derek Dunn in Washington, D.C., Ruben recalled in South Miami, Florida, or in South Southern Florida, and Nancy Green in Los Angeles. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I will see you on the other side.
See
Thanks,
you
Gil.
on the other side.
Long time, long time, long time.
Woo! That's it, Al. You're doing great.
What happened to that one kid I used to hang with all the time?
You don't remember?
Remember what?
You really don't remember.
I don't know what more you want me to remember.
What are you gonna do? He's now or never.
Hello.
I just wanna that you guys share with me your experience after you watch the film for the first time and the reaction that you had from an audience. I wanna you take it back to with an audience, how the audience responds and how was the approach to you after the film ends.
Yeah, watching it with an audience was, I think, the second time both Brandon and I watched the film. And it was I couldn't really tell you how the audience kind of felt around me because that second watch is just as you are just as immersed in the world as you are the first time watching it. So I couldn't tell what was going on because I was fully, pulled into the movie. I think that it was really silent. I think the one thing I did feel in terms of the audience is that it felt like you could hear a pin drop. And after it ended, I think the first thing that I did, I think Brandon and I kind of gave each other a hug because the experience was it was crazy to finally be at the point where we were sharing it with an audience and we were able to experience it with them. But most of the feelings were from the movie and what going through that experience again was like.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that I had seen it, I was in a screening room completely alone. And I think I was very thankful for that because as Ethan was saying, I mean, even when I was by myself, I just felt silent. I didn't have thoughts, I didn't have words. I just had feeling and I was tired and I was tender and I didn't want to be questioned to give words or to speak on the experience. I just kind of wanted to sit with it. So I was grateful to have seen it alone the first time. And I shared the first time I watched it, I had this experience that I shared with RaMell later. And I mean, I think part of it is because I was aware of there was so much that was shot. And so as I was getting these beautiful images, I would have this feeling of like just wanting to live in this image and then it would be taken away from me. And then another beautiful image and then it'd be taken away from me. So I'd have like this feeling of I expressed it to RaMell like this fleeting and that I recognize later is like this sadness of like these moments that I just want to breathe and live in, but they just keep disappearing. And the second time was a completely different experience. And the third time was a completely different experience.
RaMell?
Yeah, watching the film with an audience is just interesting. I almost envy you all in that those that aren't of course Aunjanue and Ethan and Brandon who haven't kind of seen the construction of it, to be able to encounter those images without any context and just have them be original. I think building the film doesn't allow it for me to have the exact same response as coming across them having not. But I will say the film is definitely grander than I could have imagined. And I think that that's always the goal, like with a film, Hell County This Morning, This Evening, if it needs to coalesce into something that's more than the sum of its parts. And this film is fractured in many different ways. There's a lot of different ideas, and there's a lot of power in what the performances do when they're pushed close to each other. And I think I'm always astounded when watching it with an audience how dialed in they are to Ethan's point, and the way in which they seem to be, kind of, it reminds me of like cinema as altar, and it kind of transcends the entertainment space. And I think people can sense, especially because of the archival that's in the footage, the origin of this stuff and the Dozier School boy. So yeah, it's less of a clear, it's hard to answer that question, but it's always wonderful and it's always different.
Aunjanue?
Yeah, I haven't seen the film yet. I saw a few minutes of it the other day. I felt I wasn't I was felt similar to how Ethan felt. I really wasn't aware of anybody else. I felt like I was alone. But I only saw the first few minutes of it. But what I saw was, for me, just I was affected by the beauty of it, but I also knew some horror was coming, which is what that life is.
Thank you so much.
How's it going? Derek Dunn, Reviews and Done. And my question is for Ethan and Aunjanue. This is the second time you all worked together after the harrowing movie we're not gonna name. But how did you all build chemistry this time around compared to the first time?
Why can't we name it?
I was curious too.
It's changed. So when they see us.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll let you guys say that title.
Yeah, when they see us. Yeah, this is an entirely different experience than when they see us. The moments that Aunjanue and I worked together in Nickel Boys, we weren't able to really physically interact as our characters, and she honestly spent a lot of time alone working on this project. So we had one opportunity to really catch up with each other when that was, I think, her last day of shooting, when she wrapped, and I was very thankful for it because we got to talk about a bunch of stuff. I think it had been a few years since we had seen each other, but to work with her again and to watch her work, and viewing it, from a place of being a few years older, I was still floored. It was like I was kind of 17, 18 again, and just working with this master at the craft. And so it was just once again an honor to it was an honor to be in her presence and work with her again. And I don't know, hopefully we can keep doing it. If she doesn't mind, I'm ready to be her son again, her grandson, great, whatever we got on. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, at next time I'll be your great grandma.
You want to go up there, then sure.
You guys are both just acting in different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was his mother, and when they see us now, I'm his grandmama. So great grandmama is up next. When I worked with Ethan, and when they see us, Ethan was about to go to college. He's about to go to college. And now Ethan is a college graduate. And not just a college graduate, but a graduate of chemistry. So that's who we're dealing with here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A mind. So yeah, I adore both of these men. I call them young men, but I want to give them the respect that they are due and call them men. I adore them. My experience with Ethan on When They See Us was one that stayed with me because I felt like I was getting to know something beautiful, someone beautiful, and that experience with him was just fully realized, was realized even more on this film. Yes.
Hi, Tamara from Noir Online. I apologize for the camera, guys. I don't know what's going on. My question is for the entire panel. I wanted to know, what are some of the conversations you are hopeful viewers will have after watching this film?
Can I direct this to, oh, who, can I direct this to a person? Can I put RaMell on the spot to answer this question? I'm curious to what he has to say about it.
Sure.
Just kidding, guys. I'm here. I think it's tough. It's tough to talk about the the desired conversations because, you know, they haven't changed over time, you know? Culture has been, American culture has been American culture. And, you know, Black folks, unfortunately, have been largely subsumed by the inarticulated or unarticulated visual constitution of the US. And I say that meaning how complex it is to be raced in the US and the way in which it's never truly been addressed. I think one thing I'm really interested in this film is figuring out ways to use language in a way that, visual language in a way that can truly or can come closer to dealing with the complexity of race. And it's not something I think traditional story structures and traditional camera language has been able to fully address. And I think with this film, hopefully there's an instigation or some sort of invitation for people to think about the way that the camera is integrated into the production of Blackness. And whatever comes from that comes from that. If that's not something that people think about after, I hope they have an experience inside the lives of Elwood and Turner and inside the lives of the Dozier School boys, the original source material. And that's enough for me. People don't have to talk after the film. In fact, I would prefer it if they kept turning over the images in their mind and went about their day and let the way that, Jomo and I use the camera filter into the way in which they look at the world and the way that they look at people like, Ethan and Brandon. That would probably be best, to let it become something that's more biological than something that's more linguistic. But that's just my opinion.
I want to add something, not add anything. I just want to say, for me personally, what I want is, I think that the film acts as an intervention in our ignorance about what happened to these children. I want people to get a little upset about that, more than upset about it. And those schools existed and they still exist around this country because of a culture that makes it okay, that allows it. These schools essentially act as support systems for the injustice system. So they don't put them in jail, they put them at the Dozier School. And, everybody had a cousin that went to reform school. We know it is a culture, it is a practice of a permitted brutality against Black children. But let me also say, white children went to this school as well. So I want people to sit with the images, but I also want them to get the fuck up and act on the very real reality that this culture, this 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 thing that we live that makes it okay for us to brutalize children.
Mm.
We are confronting that. This film confronts that. And I think when we know better, we do better. And those children deserve our knowing and our adjusting from that knowledge and saying, no, it's not okay. What are we doing to our children? Why have we allowed this? Our silence has allowed this to happen. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
Hi, it's Nancy Green with Film Critique. My camera is also not working. I wanted to say it was great meeting you guys at the conference earlier today. And one of the things for me with this movie, it was very difficult. I had a similar experience when I was a kid. So watching this, especially after the election, you know, it was kind of brutal to know that this sort of thing is still accepted in this country. So I wanted to know for you, what was the most difficult part for all of you of working on this film? Like what was one thing that maybe triggered you or made you extremely angry in dealing with this film?
For me, it was probably the lighthouse scene. I think that was one of the more difficult days on set and difficult pieces of material that we had to work with. There was a lot of emotion from all of the actors that were present and involved in the scene. And yeah, to be in that space, to be in the White House that the the production designer Nora Mendez built with her team, it's not a lot of the emotions that came while filming that scene, so much of it can be attributed to being in that space and in that room where it was where it felt dirty, it felt unsafe, it felt like terrible things were done there. And so yeah, well, everyone kind of had to go to a pretty dark place to be a part of that scene, and I'm really thankful that we were all able to also step out of it afterwards and rely on each other and lean on each other and support each other. But yeah, that was probably one of the tougher days, and one of the more difficult pieces of material that we had to work with.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just thinking about the source material, and it's, I can't say what Aunjanue said any better, but I wish I could just echo it from my mouth. Yeah, it's just infuriating, and it's almost paralyzing when you look at the Dozier document and you think about the facts, and you look at the buttons, and you look at the marbles that were in the kids' pockets, and you look at all the things, that of course Coulson used to write his story. It's just infuriating, and so it's something where it's almost it's like you can't think about it too much because you won't move, and that's a weird thing where it's like you want to consider it, but it's just so outrageous and absurd that it, like, I can only think of anger. And so you try to channel it into making good decisions and honoring those, but it's really just thinking about it in general, for me at least.
Hi, Dana Abercrombie, the Coalition. I am absolutely fascinated by the direction that you took with this, RaMell. And what's fascinating to me is that it's not only the emotional beats, but there seems to be lyrical beats within the movie. Can you talk about that? And also, what's fascinating is how you break it up. Between there's the archival footage, and you stay at shots longer than one would say you would. There's images of just even how the leaves look, the grass. So can you talk about finding both the emotional and lyrical beats within that movie?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's always tough to talk about the craft when the source material is so important. But yeah, the film is obviously intentionally poetic, and I've always, I kind of came to this conclusion when I was making Hale County this evening, in that and I've said this so many times, but I think it's always relevant. When you're looking at a word and you like look at it long enough and it breaks up into like letters, and then you're like, what's language? What's whatever? And then you snap back into reality. No one, I don't believe, looks at the Black community that long enough for, all of the things we know about culture and all of the residue of history and narrative to sort of dissolve, so that we are just with people, just with human beings. And then that sort of build back up of reality into the social construct. I think there's something that happens when you deconstruct. And so long looking, to me, is a way to just be in dialogue with the things that are in front of us, the things that are coming through the filters of culture that force us into certain understandings of the world. And so, of course, try to apply that to Elwood and Turner's vision. Everyone does this. Everyone looks for a long time. Most of our time, I think, is spent in banal moments. And that's something that was important to the film, within the idea of giving the Dozier School boys more life than more direction to march towards death. And with the lyricism, I'm like deeply interested in images and the way that people and meaning is constructed through them, and finding moments in the edit to extend the narrative outside of just the sort of dramatic necessary beats to imply that the way that the boys of the Dozier School boys and the way that Elwood and Turner have been treated is contingent on the way in which we see them. And is contingent on the way in which culture has produced the visualization of Black people. And so it's really about surprise. Like in the edit, it's about like surprising myself and Nick Mansour, who's the editor, and Jocelyn Barnes, and finding things that feel like visually revelatory, where you're constantly walking around a corner and you just don't know what you're going to see. And doing that with images, where you're like on the edge of your seat, like what's happening. And there's something that connects to reality and consciousness and dreaming, in which, dreams there's never an establishing shot in dreams, right? Like when you go to sleep, it's not a wide shot of the house that you're in. You're just in it, and like, that's life. And that's what's interesting to me about images, is they all make sense beside each other, so finding that poeticism inside Black life, I think, is a way of like, I think a lot of folks that make films, and I say this very respectfully to all the filmmakers that are on this call and just in general, I think that we think that the finding is in the script, and I believe that the finding is in the image. And when the images come together, like that's where we're really exploring what Black identity means. I think it's difficult to do through language. It's something that I like to do visually. And so that's kind of a couple of the baselines that produce the aesthetic.
Thank you for explaining that. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Samuel Leggett with JBS Media Productions. Welcome again. Thank you guys for talking to me again. I wanted you guys collectively to answer this question. When researching this, and the Dozier School started in 1900, 100 plus years, and the reality of this traumatic injustice happening right here in America, I want you guys to kind of unpack, as triggering as it had to have been, as sick as it actually had to feel, how much more for you guys did you feel like, I have to put everything I can into this to unmask this injustice? Because I think the truth of the matter is, you already said it, is that a lot of people don't even know. But when you're doing a film like this and you unmask it, like I could feel from all of you guys, you put 1,000% in, but it had to be hard. But I want you guys to kind of talk towards that.
Mine's a short thought. And I think it goes towards something that RaMell said, at least my approach and my experience on making this film with everybody. When he talks about giving the boys more life I think I kind of come at it more from that angle. I'm not, and I understand we're talking about a topic and there's a certain respect and responsibility there, but I think most of the time I was just leaning into being as open and as feeling the joy that was surrounding us as much as possible, and to just breathe life into this character and into these, and in those moments with Elwood and Turner, and to just have them be young boys in the world. And yeah, they're going through something, but they're also still young boys and having moments of awe and wonder and friendship. So I was more soaked into that aspect of it.
I have a pretty similar view. I think that while I did feel the responsibility and a bit of the weight of, bringing the story to light and giving the necessary respect to the material and to the Dozier schoolboys, it felt like the best way to tackle that was to play Elwood as honestly as possible, be as close to Elwood as I could possibly be, and like Brandon's, just bring that into the work and into the spaces where they interact. I think that these boys are not what happened to them. They, Elwood is, as you can see, he's a really intelligent and kind and brave and resilient human being. Turner, the same way. And so bringing that and reminding everyone constantly that they're just young men, or young boys, like Brandon said, and bringing them to life in that way is going to kind of is the best way, at least for in my mind, to pay respect to them, and to also highlight how wrong everything that happened to them was.
RaMell and Aunjanue, y'all have anything to add?
I'm thinking of a couple things, and I will say this now. Maybe I'll say this other part of this a little later. I played a part where I have done a lot of roles that are based on real people. And I did this part, played a real person in this film. And the children of the person that I was playing came to set. And when they saw me, I was, dressed up and looking like their parent. When they saw me, they just started crying, and they got really, really emotional. And there was the expectation in the room that I was going to get emotional as well. And I didn't. I was not crying. I hadn't earned their tears. I had a job to do. I had a job to do. The best way, and this is what Ethan, was essentially saying, and I'm just echoing just from my own experience. The best way that doing roles that are about real people, particularly, and I'm saying this because we're talking about Nickel Boys, which is based on real children. Your job is twofold. You have the job of playing the character, and then you have the job of advocating for the film. So now we're at the point of advocating for the film. When you're actually doing the job of playing the role, or playing the child, a parent, or icon, or whatever it is, you have to do that job. If you get caught up in, this person is an iconic figure in the history of music, or in the history of whatever it is you're doing, that's what you're going to end up doing. You're going to end up playing an abstraction rather than a real person.
Yeah.
So the best thing that you can do is what Ethan described, is just to be present and be honest and try to have as real of an experience as you can with your scene partner, even if that scene partner is a real person or a camera. That is the job that you have to do. And then you do this kind of work. In this work that we're doing, we're trying to get people to go see the film or get people to talk about the film. Then it becomes another kind of job, a completely different kind of job. So now we're in the headspace of we're telling the world about the Dozier School for boys, and how this film brings light to an injustice that we have allowed in this country. It's two different jobs. It's two different jobs.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all of you guys. One of the things I think that I feel throughout the film, everybody here can feel it, is this level of hope, and hope to not just for redemption, but retribution. And so I appreciate all you guys' authenticity, and I appreciate you, RaMell, for even taking this on. Thank you.
Thanks, Samuel. And amen, Aunjanue. Amen, Brandon and E.
Nigeria Chambers, Big O Belt Media. Oh man, we have amazing journalists here with AAFCA, because a lot of my questions and things I really was feeling from this emotion, from this film, and the emotions I have in this film have been asked. But I definitely want to ask you, RaMell, for possibly the final question today is, throughout this journey in terms of getting this film done collectively, having this ensemble cast and a lot of folks, sharing their testimonies, and Aunjanue, who just has just the deepest bucket of experience and all of the projects she's been a part of, even within the last year. And I spoke to her recently, just being a walking vessel of storytelling. I'm just curious for you, has there been anything that's been near and dear to you as someone's personal testimonies, in terms of how they've been impacted by this film, as you have really took on the journey of amplifying and uncovering the Black history and the Black experience with this project?
Yeah, I love, how do you pronounce your name?
Nigeria. Yes.
Nigeria. Yeah, thanks for that question. It's interesting because the film is such a subjective film, and I mean that literally from the eyes of Elwood and Turner, but also just in terms of its organization and the way it feels. It feels fairly unique. Like it elicits a subjective response, and so the responses have been ultimately different for every person. And you could say that about every film, but I think to the degree that it's true for this one is more extreme. I've had everything from a white man say, I've never, like weeping, like actually weeping, I've never known what it's like to be looked at as a Black person before. And I'm like, that's profound. That's not the purpose of the film. Like, I'm not making the film so that people can be in costume, be in a cinematic blackface. Like, that's not, and for people who are Black to just be Black on screen. Like, that's obviously not the case, but that's pretty profound, that a person is able to let themselves go to the extent that they're willing to take the gaze that happens when the guy is poking Elwood in the stomach as them, and then recognize that they've been seen through the world by certain eyes, which is different from being a person in the world. Like, we often think because we can do things other people can too, when in fact, every single person here has gotten a different look from other people in the world, and that shapes our reality. I've also had people who have shared deep stories about, racism and their experiences in a racial society that the film drew up for them, and I think allowed them to have some sort of reconciliation with the past and the things experiences they've had that they've kind of buried. I think the most profound conversations have been with women who are mothers to Black boys, who have said on multiple occasions that the film is a Black mother's nightmare. And then I realize, of course, I could make that film because I am a Black boy, and I can, looking through my eyes, you know, and my mother being able to see the things that I experience and the fears that I have and feeling trapped, you know, by a system that is like reptilian and violent, of course, is the most terrifying thing for a Black mother, as has been told to me. I think the most profound response I've gotten, which I shared the other day, which I hadn't thought about, at least to the extent that the same woman who shared that nightmare comment expressed that she recognized that the way in which love within the Black family, the way it's typically expressed, and it's expressed a variety of different ways, but one primary way it's expressed is through, you know, Black men and Black women being disciplinarians inside the family, right? You be this, you don't do that, come in early when the street lights, this is who you hang out with, this is bad, this is good. And you get like a hug, and it's always from the outside. But she said in this film, what was most profound for her was Anjanue's gaze, right? And of course, you know, Ethan and Brandon's too, because they're looking at each other with such love. You get to see what it's like to be looked at through the loving eyes of another young Black man. But I think specifically Anjanue's, as you know, the mother's love is the core, or the grandmother's love, the Black woman's love is the core sort of love planet inside the Black family. She was able to, she thinks that other people who haven't experienced what it looks like to be loved by another Black person, like that direct gaze comes through the screen into the audience. And that was something she felt was relatively revolutionary in terms of expressing what Black love is. It's not something from the outside. It's not something where you say it and you tell it. It's like the way that we look at each other. It's the way that we are intersubjectively connected through our gaze. And that's like that's really profound. It's something I think everyone on set felt, because Aunjanue has a presence about her. And it's something I think she's able to, you know, exude to a greater degree when she's in character, because she's attempting to do it. It's something that it's called upon by the role of the film. And so that was like really meaningful to me, because that's like something you can't predict. Like as a director, as a writer, I'm not like, I'm trying to transfer Black love in this way. I know we want it to be POV because we want to have that direct connection, but you know, without the actors, all the ones here, being able to make that adjustment and look at the camera in the way that they would look at their family members, that doesn't happen, you know? And so that was it's pretty profound.
Really appreciate that, RaMell, and everybody's time today.
No, it's a wonderful question.
Aunjanue, RaMell, Ethan, and Brandon, we thank you for your time today. Nickel Boys.
Gil.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. I have one more thing I want to say, please.
Absolutely.
Willie Atkins, Thomas Atkins, Joe Anderson, Walter Askew, James Brinson, Waldo Drew, Lloyd Dutton, Luis Fernandez, Hilton Finley, Walter Fisher, Edward Fonders, George Grissom, Louis Haffen, Shalay Hunter, Joshua James, Clifford Miller, Tillman Mohand, Richard Nelson, Fred Sams, Leonard Simmons, Wilbur Smith, Lee Underwood, Puna Warner, Harry Wells, Sim Williams, Arthur Williams, John H. Williams, Calvin Williams. These are the lists of some of the boys that went to Dozier School. On the same list, it has the parent or guardian, and several of the parents or guardians are listed as unknown. RaMell used the word earlier about this film possibly being a monument to these young boys, but I would like to think of it as a memorial. Memorial for these young boys. You talked about reactions. I have been told that people have said that it is hard to watch. People have walked out because it is hard to watch. Someone has said to me, where is the hope in this? And I think that we have become accustomed, it's particularly in telling stories about Black pain, that we've become accustomed to the work being done within the film. We get our happy ending and we can go on about our lives. Nickel Boys isn't that. Nickel Boys does not have a happy ending because these boys never had a happy ending. And what it does is it tasks us to do that work. It democratizes the pain these young men felt. And the reason why I said the names of these children is because I never want us to lose sight of these. This is not a metaphor. These are children who went through this, and we are their hope. Now, what RaMell Ross has done is he has said, when we talk about Black stories, right, we need to tell our stories. I got a long text thread from a friend of mine who's telling me now after this election, it's going to be the artists who are going to save the world. And there are going to be a lot of people who are going to say that, right? We have to save the world. So there's going to be stories about, okay, what stories do we need to tell now? I'm going to be the first one to say, I'm going to tell my story about Fannie Lou Hamer. But what RaMell Ross is saying, it's not enough to tell those stories or tell the stories that we don't know, that it is in fact how we tell the stories that we need to confront. Because we have been injured and harmed and silenced in how we tell those stories. And I just think that is important to say that this film undoes that and forces us to be present in a way that traditional filmmaking, or filmmaking that we're used to about Black lives, it forces us to confront that and rethink that and be present and receive the pain of these Black children in a way that we're not used to. And I hope we'll be open to that. So thank you for letting me say that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, we thank you, Aunjanue, RaMell, Ethan, and Brandon for your contributions to this wonderful, wonderful film, Nickel Boys. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, we thank you for watching this edition of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank you.